What's up, guys? Today we're going to revisit the LG G8X here in 2022. So we did a video on the LG G8, so I thought it makes sense to do this one. So this one obviously has the advantage because it's got the dual screen case capability, and this one is honestly around the same price. The only real difference with the standard G8 is really that phone has the 1440p display and this one does not, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, so you can see the G8X price is around 177. I highly recommend you go with an unlocked or an AT&T version. Do not get the Sprint version like me. But yeah, so let's go ahead and dive into it. It's a very cheap phone, you know, well under 200 bucks, and it does offer a lot of power, very similar to the LG V50, but the thing is that the standard V50 does not have dual screen case capability, and this one does, and this is very easy to find in the USA. They do have a dual screen case version of the LG V50, but it's kind of hard to find here in the US, at least for me, especially at a fair price that I think is worth picking it up for. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. You can see this has a slightly different design, and it's also a bigger phone than the standard G8 that we were talking about here. So slightly bigger. Not too big though, kind of on the same size of the LG V50 actually. Also, this one has I think a better notch, as you can see, a better smaller notch as well too, the water drop notch. And as far as the build quality, it does have a curved sort of back to it as well, and it feels really solid in the hand, curved edges down here as well too, so it feels pretty good in the hand. It's a glass and metal phone with IP68 dust and water resistant. The headphone jack is still here with the quad DAC. You do have on here stereo speakers and your dedicated Google Assistant button, which is awesome. And let's go ahead and actually talk about the display here. So the display on the G8X, even though it's not 1440p, it is a 1080p OLED panel, but it still looks pretty good at 6.4 inches. I think colors and everything look good, and plus, like I said, the notch on here is less intrusive than the G8 and the LG V50's notch as well, so that's something to take into consideration. It's 403 for the PPI, and I think it's a really great looking panel here. As far as just watching videos, playing games, I think it looks really good. And plus, of course, you know, OLED panel, the always on display on here, and that was the sort of thing I was trying to tell people about. If you were planning on getting that not the V50, but the LG G7, even though that has always on display as well too, I just think the OLED displays, they also look brighter to me than that G7's display. And yeah, so that's sort of like the difference there. But yeah, so I really do like the display on the G8X. I think it looks pretty solid. All right, so let's go ahead and check on the specs a little bit more here. This is something I always try to emphasize on this channel, is compare these Geekbench scores to a phone that you would pick up for $200, $300, because this phone has the Snapdragon 855 chip on here, and you still get some really good performance on here. So you also have the Adreno 640 GPU, you also have the micro SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage, and you also have 6 gigs of RAM on this base model here. And it is a very good performer as far as the gaming performance goes. On PUBG, we can actually play our games at very high settings here, HDR, extreme, all the way up to Ultra HD, and everything runs super smooth on here. So this is something that I preach to a lot of people on a budget. You do not really want to go for, like, let's say something like a Galaxy A53. Now, while that has its advantages, if you look at those Geekbench scores and look at the PUBG settings versus the PUBG settings on here, it's a big difference. This plays PUBG way better. So if you're a gamer on a budget, right, and you want to play games at high settings and you want to play competitively, right, you can enjoy high graphics and very good frame rates on this phone. The Snapdragon 855 chip, it plays emulators, it plays Call of Duty, it plays Fortnite pretty well. So all of those sort of like big games that are kind of demanding, this chipset will still do a pretty good job. Not only will this chip do a pretty good job, but once you pair it with the dual screen case, which if you want to, you can go ahead and shop on eBay. I would pay around $100 for it. I think that's what they're going for now. And if you go ahead and do that, you get even a better experience as far as gaming, because I believe PUBG is compatible, Asphalt is compatible with that case. Also, you just get that true multitasking experience, which I think is really awesome too. So you could be, you know, playing a game or on YouTube and in your full browser, and you just do true multitasking. So I think that's a really awesome advantage with this phone as well too. So performance wise, great on here as well. As far as the features on this phone, like I said, you have the Hi-Fi Quad DAC, the dual screen case. As you can see, once you plug it up, it'd be that toggle right there. NFC is on board, IP68 is on board. You have screen sharing on here as well too. You also have on here pretty good speakers, so let's go ahead and check that out. Now, I don't think the speakers, in my opinion, aren't as good as the LG G7s, but I think this one actually has, I think it was the G8. I don't think it was this one. So definitely not as good as the LG G7s. And I don't know if my mic was able to do that justice in yesterday's video, but you guys gotta take my word for it. This one sounds good. I think this one sounds better than the standard G8, but not as good as the G7, especially when it's like laying on the table. You don't really get that boombox effect like on the G7. Yeah, this one still sounds pretty good bass quality. Also, the vibrations are pretty solid on this phone as well too. So the speakers are pretty decent on here. Also, one thing that I want to mention is the in-display fingerprint sensor. This one does work. Again, I don't think it's super buggy or slow or anything like that. It's definitely not faster than a physical one. It's definitely not the fastest one that I've like ever experienced, but it gets the job done. It's not like it's unbearable to use. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for like a lot of your main features. I think one of the best things about the G8X is that the cameras are pretty good. So I think the cameras have aged really well on here. So you guys can see the shots for yourself here. We have a 12 megapixel standard, a 13 megapixel ultra wide. It shoots in 4K 60, and then you have a 32 megapixel selfie camera on here that shoots in 4K 30. Image quality still looks pretty good on this phone. So whether you're outdoors, indoors, image quality still looks good. Dynamic range is pretty solid. You get a pretty good amount of detail. The ultra wide is pretty close to the main lens as well as far as quality and coloring goes. Video is also pretty solid on here as well too. I think for $100 the camera is definitely really good. I don't really see anybody complaining about the cameras especially at this price point. Coloring, like I said, very natural colors on here, almost pretty much true to life, is one thing that I've always liked about LG image processing. And yeah, so the image quality looks good. The selfies come out pretty good. The selfies can sometimes make like the skin a little bit lighter than I would like to. But other than that, that's nothing that you can always correct things like that in editing. But yeah, so I think the image quality still looks pretty good on the G8X. Alright, so battery life is pretty good on this device. It has a 4,000 milliamp battery with 21 watt fast charging, which is also pretty decent. And then you have that 21 watt charging. So you get around 6 hours of screen on time with this phone, which is pretty solid. And again, you might not get that with the dual screen case, right? So if you attach that dual screen case, you might get like 5, maybe 4. But yeah, but it by itself is pretty good. So overall, the G8X is a pretty good phone to consider if you just want to use it as your main phone or a secondary backup phone. Like I said, the price is pretty solid on here, especially if you can really score this for $100, get a dual screen case for another 100. That is like an excellent deal, right? Because you just get so much power for that price point. So what do you guys think of the G8X? Now, so far, I see that LG is going to update the LG V50s, but they should update also the G8X to that Android 12. Like I said, you might want to get a unlocked version just so you can guarantee that update. Or if I was you guys, I would get like an AT&T version, something like that. I would avoid like the Sprint, anything with Sprint. Basically, you have a pretty good chance of getting that update. But like I said, to be safe, go with an unlocked version if you can. Alright, so that is pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to let me know, what do you guys think about this older flagship, and I will catch you guys in the next one.